Hello everyone, in honor of The Last of Us on HBO, I decided to share my top 10 favorite live-action video game adaptations. The Last of Us has thankfully broken the video game curse, and for people who say it never existed, look at the plethora of video game adaptations gone wrong throughout the past couple of decades. For every good one, it seems like we have two bad ones. Before I continue, feel free to share your top 10 favorite live-action video game adaptations. I may do another ranking down the line with CG adaptations. Starting with an honorable mention is Hitman from 2007 with Timothy Olyphant, Dougray Scott, and Ogo Kurylenko. This was actually number 10 on my list last time, but some of the recent adaptations have knocked it down. While it is a bit more slow and not as action-packed as other video game adaptations, I kind of appreciate that. I just wasn't expecting it for Hitman, but I think Timothy Olyphant does a fine job as Agent 47. Get Ogo Kurylenko in an early role. Dougray Scott, of course, from Ever After and Mission Impossible 2. And it has kind of a cool cat and mouse detective trying to figure out what's going on. Hitman being involved with different criminal syndicates. Think the video game, but more into like the underworld aspect of it. After that, at number 10 for me is Resident Evil Apocalypse. By itself as a film has actually not aged as well as Extinction or the first Resident Evil, but I love it because it adapts a bit of Resident Evil 2 and 3, and they're my favorites from the PS1 and even the remake era. It's so cool seeing Raccoon City infected. Before you had the Hive, you had underground labs. Now it's like it's everywhere. It's out in the open. And while they do take embellishments with the story and kind of like tell half of it, it still is an entertaining film that pays homage to the video game with moments from Code Veronica or moments from 2 and 3. It takes what was in the game and kind of makes it its own thing while still staying true to the video game. After this one, I think they just jumped the shark and the series went crazy. But you can still have an original story and still have the essence of Resident Evil. And unlike some of the sequels or the recent Welcome to Raccoon City or Netflix show, this felt like Resident Evil, if that makes any sense. Like, Paul W.S. Anderson with the writing didn't really stay true entirely to what made Resident Evil or Biohazard, but it had the essence of that feeling. After that, at number 9 is Mortal Kombat, the recent adaptation. This has some wonderful action. The editing was questionable. I think the editing, the way they edited the film and the fights, did a disservice to the stunt team and the people behind it. That being said, I do like the story a bit more in 1995, but this one has some cool things going for it. The only thing that really brings this film down is that Mortal Kombat's about a tournament, and we have no tournament. This would have been better if it was called Mortal Kombat Origins or something. I love that opening, though, with Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Joe Taslim makes it as Sub-Zero. It's like, I am Sub-Zero, you know? Scorpion and Sub-Zero make this movie. But you also get Jax, Sonya, you get Kano. Kano is actually really funny in this. He actually almost steals the spotlight from everyone in certain parts. You have Shang Tsung, who, I don't know, was used to the fullest of his ability, you know? But Kung Lao and Liu Kang are great. I would love to see more from Liu Kang. You get Raiden. There's some beautiful shots here. It pays a lot more homage to the video game as far as visuals goes and arenas and gore. That being said, even though this is rated R, with some blood and just over excessive use of the F word, I don't feel like this is heavier than the 1995 PG-13 film. That one just felt more hardcore to me. This one is a good movie. Definitely miles better than Annihilation, but it's kind of a missed opportunity, and I hope with the sequel they can rectify that and actually give us a proper Mortal Kombat tournament. After that, at number 8 is Doom from 2005. I love this film with Carl Urban and The Rock. While they're not entirely from hell, it's a bit more sci-fi, kind of like John Carpenter's Ghost of Mars. I like this. It's like the first Resident Evil and Ghost of Mars put together into the world of Doom. There's an intriguing story, there's characters, there's creatures, and then how they transition from the story to like first-person view action is just incredible. That is straight up from a video game. All the way to that final fight with The Rock and Carl Urban. It's just like, Super 5, mother. I love that final fight. Overall, while this isn't the best Doom movie we could get, it still is a solid film, and I think any fan of the game will appreciate it as its own thing. After that, at number 7 is Tomb Raider from 2018. I love the Tomb Raider series, the PS1s. I love the reboots. 2013 was like one of my favorite games. Alicia Vikander actually looks like Lara Croft, you know? I love how they did this, you know? The original films were based on the classic era. This is a reboot era. Was it as full of a story as the video game? No. Did they have to have her father alive? No, not really. But it's cool seeing them adapt the story of the first reboot with the island, with Himiko. Seeing moments recreated, that is so cool. And it's a different Lara Croft. I love it because she's not Lara Croft Tomb Raider yet. This is Lara Croft who's kind of like dealing with the loss of her father, responsibility, doesn't want her wealth, doesn't want to do anything. The style of this movie, kind of a gritty, grounded reboot. Them getting stuck on here, Walter Goggins as the bad guy. Overall, this is a good little caper film. I wish it was longer. Is it as action-packed as the original? In some ways, yes. In other ways, no. It's a different type of action, but I do love that Indiana Jones feel to it, that Tomb Raider video game feel to it. After that, at number 6, is Lara Croft Tomb Raider, the original, with Angelina Jolie. This is straight-up classic Tomb Raider. I mean, she looks just like the video game Tomb Raider. And this isn't entirely based on the video game. It's more stylized. It's definitely a post-Matrix early 2000s film. Dale Craig in an early role. I didn't even know Dale Craig was in this movie until I rewatched him. Like, James Bond was in this? Anyway, I love that opening action scene. The different, like, supernatural mysticism of it all. I think that's one thing that the reboot was missing, was the supernatural elements that are in the game. It's Lara Croft Tomb Raider, and it's done in a very exciting way, and it's better than a lot of other films, especially Uncharted. After that, at number 5 is Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog is one of my favorite video game adaptations. While, yes, he doesn't go into the human world in the games, I do love how they acknowledge the Sonic world and how he gets into our realm. Seeing Robotnik, Jim Carrey is perfect in this. I mean, he's at his best. Like, this and Burt Wonderstone is like Jim Carrey from the 90s. Like, I love his performance here. James Marsden, the Donut Lord, you know. Sonic, the humor Sonic has, like a buddy cop family adventure, and I love it. I love this film. It just brought me bundles of joy during the pandemic. 2020 it came out, and I was like, this is actually really good. Better than it has any right to be. And I'm as old as Sonic, so like, yeah, I love Sonic. That was like my go-to mascot playable character before Crash Bandicoot was Sonic the Hedgehog. So I'm hoping for a Jak and Daxter and Crash movie soon. After that, at number 4, for me now, is Resident Evil from 2002. This is another film like Tomb Raider that has aged very well, in my opinion. And what I liked about this is that even though it doesn't do it exactly like the video game, it treats it more like a prequel to the video game. You know, it wasn't trying to like override or rewrite history. It's like Paul W.S. Anderson said, what happened before Chris Redfield, Wesker, and Jill got to the mansion? That was kind of cool to explore. And it's sad because you see the actors in this, and you think, man, that would have been a good Chris and Jill if they just made a straight-up adaptation. Would I have loved to see George A. Romero's? Absolutely. But this was a cool film that felt like Resident Evil and something new. It even influenced the video games later. That laser room sequence is just, oh my god, frightening, exhilarating. It's just exciting seeing the zombie dogs, the lickers. The liquor effects do not look as good as they did back then, but still, that train sequence at the end is just awesome all the way to that cliffhanger ending. I love how they focus out of Raccoon City. After that, at number 3 now is The Last of Us. I absolutely love The Last of Us. This might be the best video game adaptation yet. And I think the reason why is it's like, I love it, and I love how they recreate moments, but there's certain parts that I nitpick knowing that they omitted certain portions from the game, certain character development moments for Joel and Ellie, certain infected or threats. I feel like at times, even though you don't need action all the time, I feel like the threat level was kind of low for a post-apocalyptic world. Maybe that's just me being an action junkie with like Mad Max or seeing Viggo Mortensen's The Road. I was just expecting a little bit more threat in certain areas like the video game. But that being said, there are moments where they recreated frame by frame beautifully. I mean, look at the pilot. Look at Henry and Sam. Look at Left Behind. I love that story with Riley and Ellie, and seeing that backstory in the mall to that tragic event. Everything from that was just like the game. And they did omit certain things as far as rhythm patterns and stuff, but like most of all, it was pretty close. Were there certain moments that I thought would be more epic in live action that felt maybe like it was kind of a letdown or too rushed? Absolutely, but come on, man. After Uncharted, this is a blessing. And I love that Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann made this show. And Neil Druckmann being involved, I think, helped a lot. It's kind of like, the way I look at it, what do you prefer, the game or the adaptation? I think I would always play the video game, but I personally love both. And I'm going to treat them like novel adaptations to film. Look at like Interview with the Vampire from 1994. It's a little bit different from the book, but Anne Rice was still involved. Stephen King miniseries like in the 90s and 2000s, he was still involved behind the scenes. So even though they changed things, it's not that bad of a departure. They still understand the essence of what makes their source material. And I think that's what makes The Last of Us such a captivating TV show and adaptation. You can change things as long as you understand the world and the essence of what makes that world, you know? And I'm afraid that studios now are going to be like, let's do The Last of Us. And they're just going to do The Last of Us and miss the whole point of why The Last of Us worked, you know? And I think you can make those changes. And you also kind of have to look at it on a gamer level, like outside. I envy those who have experienced Last of Us for the first time. Not in a video game, but as this TV show, because I feel like it's a hindrance looking at like, oh yeah, they got that right, or oh man, I wish that was there, you know? And it's just so cool seeing this, and I think I have to get used to it in a way too, of like you're watching this and it has to work for TV as characters, where when we play video games, it's interactive. You feel like you're making the choice, but there's an interactive element, so when you take that out, this is pretty much the story, and I think they did one hell of a job adapting this. This is going to go down as what to do in video game adaptations moving forward in the future. After that, at number 2, for me, still is Silent Hill from 2006. This is a scary film that totally captures the feeling and atmosphere of the Silent Hill video games. I just wish this director came back for Revelations. That was a pile of junk, but he's coming back for a Silent Hill 3. We shall see what happens, but I love the story here. Sean Bean in this. Seeing the story of this couple with the daughter going missing, and she is actually adopted, and she goes back to Silent Hill, discovering the secrets and revelations, the fog, seeing Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire play, the cult they deal with. Oh my God, there's so many creepy, grotesque moments that I don't even know if this would be made now. Like, this is just an awesome movie that it captures Silent Hill, but then at the end, you just want to go play a Silent Hill game. Those games are terrifying. And this is still one of my favorite adaptations. It's an excellent story that even if you're not a video game fan, if you're like a horror film fan or just a cinephile, I think you will highly enjoy this and find Silent Hill to be an underrated movie. After that, at number 1 is Mortal Kombat. Talking about sequels that didn't live up to the original, this to me is still my favorite video game film. I mean, I don't know if it's just watching this at a young age, playing the Mortal Kombat Trilogy arcade game. Speaking of which, I love that in Last of Us. They even had Mortal Kombat 2. I forgot to mention that. Robin Shou in this, you know, is just fantastic. Christopher Lambert as Raiden. Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage. This is a part where you fall down. Bridget Wilson as Sonya Blade. You know what I smell? Bullshit. A handful of people on a leaky boat are going to save the world. Exactly. The soundtrack's iconic. You have the Techno Syndrome and Utah Saints. You have Juke Joint Jezebel. Oh my God. Give me a break. It's like, okay. And then Shang Tsung is menacing as ever. The best Shang Tsung. So great that they have to bring back the actor in a fan film and in a video game. Your soul is mine. Action in this is kick-ass brutal. Are some of the jokes and effects dated? Absolutely. But you know what? This is such a fun movie that still has a bit of an edge. And I love it because, you know, you had video game adaptations before this. They were out there. They kind of missed the point of what made the games. Or they got close to the look of the games, but they didn't take them seriously. Mortal Kombat was the first one to get it right and actually take the material seriously to the point of elevating it even more. Because you got to think about it, it's an arcade game. You didn't have like the cutscenes and stuff. You had like little story cards and different stuff when you finish the towers. But you didn't have like the whole movie aspect of the video game yet. So like this really did a lot. Overall though, we've had some excellent video game adaptations. And I think that there's still a future. Even though people may be tired of them, maybe it's a medium that doesn't work. I think with Last of Us and some of the other stuff like The Witcher, I think it allows for long form narratives to be brought to TV. Think about the hours we play games. Think about the hours you could put that into a TV show if done right. I want to see Life is Strange and Legacy of Kain next. Absolutely. Give me that. Those are my top 10 favorite video game adaptations. Let me know your top 10 favorites down in the comments below. And in the meantime, you can like this video and subscribe for more content. May everyone stay safe and healthy. Till next time.